Do you suspect that you might have received information on the basis of stuff gathered by Glenmore Care?
Well, now I know what I know is this is one of the difficulties. Obviously, I know quite an extensive amount now, particularly the last 6 months of investigating this story. And Glenmore Care, I am aware, worked on and off with the News of the World, I think, in the late 90s, and continued through until 2006 when he was arrested. So obviously, if he worked for the News of the World for that time, he was involved. And I think the judge said in 2007, which again, we may disagree with that now, but the judge said in 2007, when Glenmore Care was convicted, that he had a perfectly legitimate contract with the News of the World for research and investigative work. And the judge said that, I think, quite repeatedly throughout the trial. So that's what I can tell you.
Did you ever have any contact directly or through others with Jonathan Rees?
No.
Do you know about Jonathan Rees?
I do. Again, I heard a lot recently about Jonathan Rees. I watched the Panorama programme, as we all did. He wasn't a name familiar with me. I am told that he rejoined the News of the World in 2005, 2006. And he worked for the News of the World and many other newspapers in the late 1990s. That's my information.
Do you find it peculiar that, having served a sentence for a serious criminal offence, he was then rehired by the paper?
It does seem extraordinary.
Do you know who hired him?
No, I don't.
Do you know who signed his contract?
No, sorry.
Have you been conducting an investigation for 6 months? Did you not take the time to find out?
The investigation that we've been conducting in the 6 months is been particularly around the interception of voicemails, as you know. The Management and Standards Committee at News International are going to look at Jonathan Rees, and we already do have some information, but as to the conclusion of that investigation, I do not know.
What information do you have?
We have information that, as I said, that Jonathan Rees worked for newspapers, many newspapers in Fleet Street in the late 90s, and then he was rehired by the News of the World sometime in 2005, maybe
Do you know what he was doing at that time?
In
2005-06?
I don't, I'm sorry, no.
Did you not ask?
Well, I was the editor of The Sun at the time. I didn't know they'd rehired him. I've only found that out recently.
When you were chief executive of the company, did you not wonder what he did in 2005-06, given that you've got a hacking scandal breaking around you?
Absolutely, and I've had the information that Panorama have, that Jonathan Rees worked as a private investigator. In the Panorama programme, it said that he was conducting many illegal offences. That's what I saw, like you did. But also, he used to work for Panorama. He worked for many newspapers, presumably before his conviction, as you say, and then he was rehired by the News of the World.
Do you believe he conducted illegal activities on behalf of News of the World?
I can only comment what I know, and I don't know that.
What is your belief?
I don't know.
You don't know what he did?
I don't know what he did for the News of the World. I'm sorry. I don't know what he did.
Do you not think people will just find it incredible that as chief executive of the company you don't know?
Well, it may be incredible, but again, it is also the truth. I heard about Jonathan Rees's rehiring by the News of the World by an investigation conducted by Panorama.
Did you ever have any contact directly or through others with Steve Whittemore?
Yes.
What did you do with him?
Steve Whittemore was one of the private detectives, as I said, who formed, I think, the major part of Operation Motorman. And as Mr. Farrelly said...
but what Steve Whittemore did, I'd like to know what you did with him.
What, sorry?
I'd like to know what you did with him.
Well, I think in the main, my use of private investigators while I was editor of the News of the World was purely legitimate, and in pursuit in the main, as you know, for the addresses and whereabouts of convicted paedophiles through Sarah's Law, and that is my majority use, if not more, almost exclusively use of private investigators myself. So but I respect that the News of the World also use private investigators for other stories.
Are you aware that Steve Whittemore conducted 2 ex-directory lookups on the Dowler family in Waltham-on-Thames?
I wasn't aware of that until 2 weeks ago now.
You are now.
Yes, I am.
And why did you order a mobile conversion from Steve Whittemore?
Look, as I said, it was 11 years ago. I've answered this question many times, but just to repeat, a mobile conversion, which is finding an address from a mobile phone, that is what a mobile conversion is, and can be got through legitimate means. In fact, the story that you're referring to, the mobile phone was a business number, and the address was widely known.
So you can remember what the story was then?
I've just said to you,
What was the story you were working on?
I've read it because I've read it in the New York Times.
Was that a paedophile you were after then?
Well, I think it'd be unfair to the person concerned because he's been named by The Guardian and the New York Times. But what I'm saying is that when I use, the very few occasions in which I use private detectives was on Sarah's law.
Can you name other private detectives you worked with?
No.
You can't remember them?
No.
Are you aware of the paper used other detectives though?
What, sorry?
Did the paper use other private detectives other than Steve Whittemore, Jonathan Rees and Glenn Mulcair?
He was the one I was aware of at the time. As I said, the first time I heard about Glenn Mulcair was when he was arrested in 2006.
Is it your belief that the paper used other private investigators that you just can't remember today?
No, I remember. It isn't that I can't remember. It's you have the same information as I have, which is from Operation Motorman.